Welcome to Tansson TV Plus. I'm Brandon,
And I'm Mom.
and thank you so much for joining us. We always love doing this, and Mom, this is a movie discussion.
It is a movie discussion, and we're kind of sticking with the holiday theme for these Mondays most of the Mondays anyway in December. And so today we're going to talk about National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Yes, this released on December 1st of 1989.
Yes, it did. And I will let the audience know I did pick this movie because I have, even though I've seen bits and parts of this movie over the course of the years, and yes, I did watch it in its entirety years ago, it just been a while. And it's kind of considered an iconic movie of the holiday season. So I wanted to kind of take a look to kind of see what makes it iconic.
But yeah, well, I'm definitely, looking forward to our discussion.
All right. And I'll give you just a little bit of information about the overall plot of the movie. So basically, Clark Griswold, he's a family who has a family of four, so two children and his wife. He is looking forward to having a large family Christmas with his extended family from both sides of the family. Um, Unfortunately, he does receive an unexpected visit, even though he had lots of family members there, from one of his cousin Eddie, who is someone who's been in other Lampoon Vacation movies previously. And also, Clark is also looking forward to having a large bonus check arrive so that he could make a pool, have a pool built for his family. However, we do find out that he does not receive this check. And so those two plots in itself are what kind of guide this movie along.
Well, Mom, thank you so much for that.
You're welcome, Brandon.
Yeah, and so, before we go into it, we always, of course, speak about what do we know. And so, Mom, what did you know about this heading into it?
Well, Brandon, I knew quite a bit. I will say that, as I mentioned before, I've seen this movie previously, and I have seen actually the two prior movies, meaning the National Lampoon's Vacation and then the European Vacation. And so both movies I watched numerous times previously and enjoyed them when I watched them. And so there are parts of it that I know that were just funny. And so I wanted to see this again to see if the same thing, if I thought this was just as funny as the previous movies. And so that was actually my goal for this, just to see if this actually was as funny as I remembered it, or if it, or what. Brandon, what were your thoughts? Because you actually have fresh eyes watching this. Like I said, I'd seen it before. It's just been a few years since I'd seen it all the way through.
Yeah, well, you all showed me this movie several years ago. Unfortunately, rewatched it for discussion, and I mean, I thought it was all right. I mean, there were certain parts that I really enjoyed. Yeah, I'm a very big fan of physical comedy, and so this had definitely a plethora of it. And there are numerous reasons as to why I believe that it is a classic, and some of the portrayal that we'll get into a little bit later. But then, in the same regard, I feel like there were quite a bit of things I felt very outdated that really stood out within the movie that the movie tried to highlight. So yeah. So I mean, mixed feelings. But I mean, like I said, I thought it was all right.
All right. I guess for me, I was looking at some of the scenes that I remembered as a child watching this. Like I said, I was a child in 1989, I think. And so yeah, there were some things that kind of stood out that I did remember from the originally watching it. And then, of course, throughout the years, it was nice to actually watch it all the way through because there was a plot and the plot made sense throughout. I thought if you thought of it in the relationship of the way the Griswolds looked for the neighbors, I thought that was kind of fun to think of it that way because the neighbors were just there. And the Griswold family was just being the Griswolds, and everything that happened to them just kind of happened. But the neighbors were the ones who actually saw the effect of everything or a lot of things that they did. And so that I thought was kind of funny watching the looks on their faces as, when the lights turn off the first time and it was very bright, we have trees that are falling down in front of them. And so watching it from their perspective was kind of funny, I guess, as an outside person kind of watching the movie.
Oh yes, and I believe and my thoughts is that the neighbors are my favorite part of the movie because I think it's on one hand us as the viewers, we're watching this and all the shenanigans, but another thing where for the neighbors they have really no part of any of this, and they're just trying to live their lives, go jog and have dinner, and everything imaginable that's happening with their neighbors at Grid Walls is affecting their livelihood, and they can't do anything about it, whether they want to or not.
Yes, that is Margot and Todd, and that's and so for me, they were kind of in watching it back, kind of the highlight of the movie, just kind of seeing how they were affected by everything that had happened to them. The physical comedy, like you mentioned, is something that stands out in this movie. And I did like the sense that they had family in here, and they had family members that were just kind of odd, but I think that's normal for other families too. And so I did like that they included family per se in it. Now, I will say for the viewing audience that this was labeled TV 14, and I believe that it really is TV 14. So this is not a movie for young people. Some of it might go right over their head, but it is really not a movie for young people. It is for someone who has a little bit of maturity and is able to watch and can watch it then.
Yeah, I definitely agree to that. Like I said, even though we do see family all around, like I said, I definitely think this is geared very much towards, like adults or young adults, and like I said, an older family, I should say.
Yes, very true.
And so, Mom, what would you say, helps make this a modern classic?
Well, I think just because of the physical comedy in it, that it's things that could happen per se. Well, some of it anyway. Some of the things that really could happen, and so watching that is funny. Um, it is kind of like family fun per se in regards to, as long as it's just an older child watching it, um, family fun. It does do a little bit of the outrageous in the movie itself, which is kind of fun to watch. And there is a resolution to everything that occurs in regards to the bonus check and how that kind of, I mean, how it kind of resolves itself, but how the family kind of sticks together in regards to, at that point, his cousin Eddie, as he kind of goes to get the boss, even though, so, and the reaction of the police. Um, so it is, I would say, it's a movie that I like. Would I watch it again? Yes, because I have seen it multiple times. I don't think it's a movie that you would watch again, but not necessarily seek to watch. If I'm reading you correctly.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely was. I thought that there was a lot of humorous moments within it, but in the same regard, I don't think it's a movie that was I would per se seek out. It's a little bit much for me in some places, but in the same regard, from my memory anyway, since it's been a while since I've seen the regular National Lampoon's Vacation movie, I'd probably see this movie before I see that movie again.
Okay, well that makes sense. Now it'll be interesting to see what the viewers think. Is this a movie that you're able to watch over and over again? Let us know in the comments if this is one that you do kind of enjoy every year.
Yeah, and I will say something that I think as to why this is such a memorable movie is that for the most part, the Griswold family and especially Clark, that I think they're sort of amalgamations of what you would expect for the holiday season, in the sense that you have a sort of struggling family, but they just want to make the most of their family. Clark, he's trying his best through all of the different things that keep happening to him, that he's trying his best to just make a great holiday for his family, even though more and more family keeps showing up, that he's just working through it. And, you see him get frustrated, but he's still working through it, trying to hold in uh, his anger and sort of resentment for certain things. But from the Christmas lights not working um, to being stuck in the attic, that I think that they just took so many of these different thoughts that we have for the holidays and just sort of made it a little bit more humorous, condensed it all down, which I think really makes this movie work. And especially with all of the crazy family that, I mean, I think it's something that everyone can relate to in some instance.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. And so, like we've done this one, because we've tried to find a couple movies that, people, like we talked about Home Alone previously, that kind of stand out as movies that people talk about around the holiday season. We've chosen some comedies, and we have another comedy that we're going to talk about. And so it'll be interesting to see when we kind of do the third one to see if we think the same thoughts or whether or not we need to try something we haven't seen before.
Yes, and I will say, speaking of those other movies that some that we've seen, some that we haven't, especially for Home Alone, is that one, this movie Home Alone actually share a little bit of a connection.
Oh, what's our connections, Brandon?
Yeah, so both are written by John Hughes, and this one's produced by Hughes Entertainment. And in fact, the Chris Columbus, who's supposed to write this movie, instead wrote Home Alone.
Okay. Well, like I said, we've got a common theme. We have a we have a common theme in regards to our movies and our TV shows.
Yes, and I will say that both use physical comedy a lot.
Yes, and I have a feeling a third one uses some physical comedy also. So it'll be interesting to see what our thoughts are about that.
Yeah, so maybe by the end of this, we can almost do like a top 10, so to speak, of what we identify in these Christmas movies.
Yeah, we sure can. I will say we thank everyone for watching today. I know we didn't give a lot of depth to this one, but this is more of a comedy. It's kind of hard to give sometimes a little depth to the comedies. But we thank you for watching us.
Yes, we always enjoy doing this.
All right, everybody, have a great day.
We'll see you next time.
All right, bye bye.